I'm Sarah Chun, 28 years old, and I'll never forget the day my own family looked me in the eye and told me I was no longer welcome in the home where I grew up. The words came from my older sister Emma, delivered with a coldness that still makes my heart ache. You don't belong here anymore. What shattered me completely was watching our mother, Linda, nod in silent agreement beside her. 6 years later, I'm the founder of a tech company worth over $200 million, while they've lost everything they once held dear. Now my phone buzzes constantly with their messages, their apologies, their desperate pleas to be part of my life again. Before I tell you how I got here, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe if stories of family betrayal and ultimate triumph resonate with you. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, our family seemed perfect from the outside. Our craftsman-style house on Elm Street was always filled with the aroma of Mom's famous dumplings and the sound of laughter. My parents, Linda and David Chen, had immigrated from Taiwan in their 20s, building their American dream from scratch. Dad owned a small but successful import business specializing in electronics, while Mom managed the books and raised Emma and me. Emma, 3 years older than me, was everything I admired and wanted to be. Beautiful, confident, and effortlessly popular, she seemed to glide through life, while I struggled with my thick glasses, social awkwardness, and obsession with computers. Despite our differences, we were close during childhood. She'd let me tag along to the mall with her friends, help me with my hair for school pictures, and defend me when kids teased me for being the weird Asian nerd. Our parents worked incredibly hard to provide for us. Dad would leave before dawn to meet suppliers at the port, returning home with stories of new gadgets and technologies that fascinated me. Mom balanced the business finances during the day and cooked elaborate family dinners every evening. Sunday dim sum at our favorite restaurant was sacred family time, where we'd share our week's accomplishments and dreams for the future. I showed early aptitude for mathematics and science, but it was my fascination with computers that truly set me apart. While Emma spent her allowance on clothes and makeup, I saved every penny to buy programming books and computer magazines. By age 12, I had taught myself basic coding and was building simple websites for local businesses, earning small amounts of money that I proudly contributed to my college fund. Mom would beam with pride when teachers called to praise my academic achievements. "My little genius," she'd say, ruffling my hair. "You're going to make our family so proud someday." Dad encouraged my interests by bringing home discarded electronics from his business, challenging me to figure out how they worked and fix the broken ones. Emma and I maintained our close relationship through my early high school years, despite growing in different directions. She became student body president and dated the captain of the football team, while I joined the robotics club and competed in programming competitions. Our differences complemented each other perfectly. She helped me navigate social situations, and I helped her with math homework and college applications. The first crack in our family foundation appeared during my junior year of high school. Dad's import business, which had thrived for years, began struggling due to increased competition from larger companies and changing trade regulations. Orders decreased, and longtime clients started buying directly from overseas suppliers. The stress showed on Dad's face during our Sunday dinners, though he tried to hide his worries behind forced smiles. Emma, meanwhile, had been accepted to Stanford University with plans to major in business and eventually take over Dad's company. The acceptance came with significant financial pressure. Even with some scholarship money, the tuition and living expenses would strain our family's resources. As Dad's business continued to decline, the dream of Emma attending her first-choice school began slipping away. During this same period, I was receiving recognition for my programming skills. I won several state-level competitions and caught the attention of tech companies offering internships. My guidance counselor told my parents that I had the potential to earn full scholarships to top engineering programs. "Sarah has exceptional talent," she explained during a parent-teacher conference. "Companies are already expressing interest in her work." Initially, my parents were thrilled by both daughters' potential. But as Dad's financial situation worsened, I noticed a shift in the family dynamic. Emma became increasingly bitter about potentially having to attend community college instead of Stanford. Mom grew defensive about Emma's achievements, often downplaying my successes to avoid making Emma feel worse. The breaking point came during spring of my junior year when I received an invitation to participate in a prestigious summer coding camp at MIT. The program was free for selected students and would provide invaluable experience and networking opportunities. At the same dinner where I shared this exciting news, Emma announced that she would need to turn down Stanford and enroll at Portland State University instead. The contrast was devastating. While I celebrated a dream opportunity, Emma faced the collapse of her carefully planned future. Mom's response to my MIT invitation was lukewarm at best. "That's nice, dear," she said distractedly, then immediately turned to comfort Emma about her Stanford disappointment. From that moment forward, my achievements became sources of family tension rather than celebration. When I published my first mobile app and earned modest revenue, Emma accused me of showing off, and Mom suggested I should be more sensitive to my sister's feelings. When colleges began recruiting me with scholarship offers, the conversations happened behind closed doors to avoid upsetting Emma. The summer at MIT was transformative. Surrounded by other young programmers and computer scientists, I finally found my tribe. We worked 18-hour days on projects that challenged and excited us. I developed a prototype for an inventory management system that caught the attention of several venture capitalists attending our final presentations. More importantly, I gained confidence in my abilities and vision for my future. My mentor, Dr. Jennifer Walsh, became an invaluable guide. "You have rare talent, Sarah," she told me after reviewing my project. "Don't let anyone convince you to settle for less than your potential." Her words would prove prophetic in ways I couldn't imagine. When I returned home from MIT, the family dynamic had shifted dramatically. Emma had started community college, but was struggling academically and socially. She resented her situation and blamed our parents for not working harder to afford Stanford. Mom walked on eggshells around Emma, constantly trying to boost her confidence while accidentally diminishing my accomplishments in the process. Dad's business continued its downward spiral. He was forced to lay off his 2 employees and move operations from the rented warehouse to our garage. The stress affected his health. He developed high blood pressure and had trouble sleeping. The man who once brought home technological treasures now looked defeated and exhausted. As my senior year progressed, college acceptances and scholarship offers poured in. MIT, Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, and other top programs offered full rides based on my academic achievements and programming portfolio. What should have been the proudest time in our family's history instead became a period of uncomfortable silence and growing resentment. Emma's jealousy became impossible to ignore. She made snide comments about my computer obsession and suggested that I was selfish for pursuing opportunities that took me away from family. Mom, caught between her daughters, began expressing concerns about me becoming too focused on career and not enough on family values. The situation reached a crisis point when I received an offer from a Silicon Valley startup to join them immediately as a junior developer, with the option to attend college part-time through their education partnership program. The salary was more than Dad's struggling business earned in several months, and the experience would be invaluable. I was torn between the incredible opportunity and my family's expectations. When I presented the offer during a family dinner, the reaction was explosive. Emma accused me of being too good for college like normal people. Mom worried that I was making decisions too quickly and should focus on getting a proper education first. Most devastatingly, Dad, who had always been my biggest supporter, suggested that I should consider staying local and helping save the family business instead of chasing fantasies in California. The betrayal of his doubt cut deeper than anything Emma or Mom had said. Despite the family pressure, I decided to accept the startup position and attend Stanford part-time through their program. The decision felt right for my career and future, even though it meant disappointing my family. Dr. Walsh had warned me that people might try to limit my potential out of their own fears, but I never expected it to come from the people who raised me. The weeks leading up to my departure were tense and unhappy. Emma barely spoke to me except to make cutting remarks about my selfishness. Mom oscillated between pride in my achievements and worry that I was making a mistake. Dad retreated into work and avoided discussing my plans altogether. My last night at home should have been a celebration, but instead felt like a funeral. I packed my belongings while family members avoided me, each lost in their own disappointment and resentment. When I tried to talk to Emma about maintaining our relationship despite the distance, she responded with cold indifference. "Don't pretend this isn't exactly what you wanted," she said. "To be better than all of us. To leave us behind." Her words stung because there was a grain of truth. I was excited about my future, even though I wished it didn't have to come at the cost of family harmony. The move to Silicon Valley was both exhilarating and lonely. The startup, called Dataflow Solutions, was developing artificial intelligence tools for small businesses. My role involved creating user interfaces that made complex AI accessible to non-technical users. The work was challenging and rewarding, exactly what I had dreamed of during those late nights learning to code in my childhood bedroom. My colleagues were brilliant and ambitious, coming from diverse backgrounds, but united by their passion for technology and innovation. For the first time in my life, being intelligent and driven wasn't something to downplay or apologize for. My ideas were valued, my contributions recognized, and my potential nurtured. The Stanford classes I attended in the evenings provided theoretical foundation for the practical work I was doing during the day. Professors were impressed by my real-world experience, and I quickly became known as someone who could bridge the gap between academic concepts and business applications. Despite my professional success, I struggled with the family separation. I called home weekly, but conversations were stilted and brief. Emma was failing several classes at community college and had broken up with her longtime boyfriend. Mom was overwhelmed trying to support Emma while also helping Dad keep the business afloat. Dad's health continued to decline under the stress. During my first Christmas away from home, I flew back to Portland with gifts for everyone and hopes of reconciliation. Instead, I found a family in crisis. Dad had been hospitalized for chest pains the week before my arrival. The business was on the verge of bankruptcy. Emma had dropped out of college and was working at a retail store, bitter and resentful about how her life had turned out. The visit was a disaster. Emma accused me of flaunting my success when I mentioned my work at Dataflow. Mom suggested that I should have stayed home to help the family through difficult times instead of playing with computers. Even Dad, weak from his hospital stay, made comments about how I seemed to have forgotten where I came from. The final confrontation happened on Christmas Eve. I had offered to use my savings and salary to help pay for Dad's medical bills and keep the business operating. Instead of gratitude, my offer was met with anger and rejection. "We don't need your charity," Emma spat, her face twisted with resentment. "You think money makes you better than us now?" "That's not what I meant," I protested. "I just want to help." "You want to feel superior," she continued. "The smart daughter who made it big while the rest of us failed. Well, congratulations, Sarah. You got what you wanted." Mom, who had been silently washing dishes during this exchange, suddenly turned around. Her expression was cold and distant, nothing like the warm, supportive mother I remembered. "Maybe Emma's right," she said quietly. "You've changed, Sarah. You don't seem to understand what family means anymore. All you care about is your career and your success." "That's not true," I said, tears beginning to form. "I love this family. That's why I want to help." "You love the idea of rescuing us," Emma shot back. "It makes you feel important, doesn't it? The successful daughter swooping in to save the day." "You don't belong here anymore," Emma continued, her voice gaining strength. "You chose your path. You chose your fancy job and your Stanford classes over your family. Now you have to live with the consequences." I looked desperately at Mom, waiting for her to defend me, to remind Emma that I was still part of this family despite our differences. Instead, Mom nodded slowly, her expression resolute. "I think it would be best if you left," she said simply. "Your presence is causing too much upset for everyone." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood in the kitchen where I had learned to cook dumplings, where I had done homework while Mom prepared dinner, where our family had shared thousands of meals together. Now I was being told I no longer belonged there. "Fine," I managed to say, though my voice was shaking. "I'll go." I packed my things in silence while Emma and Mom avoided me. Dad was sleeping, unaware of the confrontation that had just torn our family apart. I left without saying goodbye, carrying my suitcase into the cold Portland night with nowhere to go. I spent Christmas Day alone in a hotel room, crying and questioning every decision I had made. Maybe they were right. Maybe I had become selfish and forgotten what mattered. Maybe success wasn't worth losing the people you loved. But as the shock wore off, anger began to replace the sadness. I had worked incredibly hard to build opportunities for myself and had offered to share the benefits with my family. Instead of being supported, I had been rejected and cast out. Their inability to handle my success was their problem, not mine. I returned to California with a new determination. If my family couldn't accept my choices and achievements, I would build a new life without them. I threw myself into work with renewed focus, using the pain of rejection as fuel for even greater success. Data Flow Solutions was growing rapidly, and my contributions became increasingly valuable to the company. Within a year, I was promoted to senior developer with equity in the company. My user interface designs became a key differentiator for our products, and competitors began trying to poach me with lucrative offers. Instead of jumping to another company, I began developing my own ideas for a startup. During late nights and weekends, I worked on a concept for a platform that would democratize access to artificial intelligence tools for small businesses. The idea came from watching my father struggle with outdated systems and inefficient processes in his import business. My prototype caught the attention of several venture capital firms, and I found myself in the position of choosing between multiple investment offers. At age 24, I was preparing to launch my own company with substantial backing and unlimited potential. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was solving the exact problems that had contributed to my father's business struggles, but he would never benefit from my solution because he had chosen to cut me out of his life. The launch of my company, IntelliFlow Systems, was everything I had dreamed of and more. Our AI-powered business optimization platform filled a genuine market need, and customer adoption exceeded all projections. Within 6 months, we had expanded from a team of 5 to over 50 employees. The tech press began taking notice. Articles in TechCrunch and Wired featured our innovative approach to making artificial intelligence accessible to small business owners. I was invited to speak at conferences and participate in panels about entrepreneurship and women in technology. As IntelliFlow's valuation soared, I found myself featured on various under 30 lists and interviewed for major publications. The girl who had been told she didn't belong anywhere was now being celebrated as one of the most promising young entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. The success brought financial security I had never imagined. I purchased a beautiful apartment in San Francisco with views of the bay, furnished it with carefully chosen pieces that reflected my personality and achievements. For the first time in my life, I had created a space that was entirely mine, where no one could tell me I didn't belong. But success also brought unexpected loneliness. Late nights at the office were productive but isolating. I had colleagues and business relationships, but few genuine friendships. Dating was complicated by my professional commitments and the difficulty of finding someone who understood my driven nature. I tried to fill the void with work, pushing IntelliFlow to new heights while developing additional products and services. The company went through several funding rounds, each one increasing our valuation and my personal wealth. By my 26th birthday, I was worth over $100 million on paper. Still, I found myself wondering about my family. I resisted the urge to search for them online or hire someone to check on their situation. The rejection had been complete. They had made their choice, and I had made mine. Looking backward would only interfere with moving forward. The turning point came when Forbes featured me on their cover as one of the year's most successful young entrepreneurs. The article detailed my journey from immigrant family's daughter to tech mogul, though it didn't mention the family estrangement that had catalyzed my success. Within days of the article's publication, my assistant informed me that several people claiming to be family members had tried to contact me through the company. My personal phone, which I had changed years earlier, began receiving calls from unknown numbers. My social media accounts, which I rarely used, were flooded with messages. The first direct contact came via email from Emma. Seeing her name in my inbox triggered a flood of emotions I thought I had buried. Her message was casual and familiar, as if we had simply lost touch rather than ending our relationship through mutual rejection and cutting words. She congratulated me on my success and mentioned that she had always known I would do great things. The message included updates about her life. She had returned to school, was working toward a nursing degree, and had gotten married to someone I didn't know. She ended by suggesting we catch up and reconnect as sisters should. There was no acknowledgement of our last conversation, no apology for the hurtful things she had said, no recognition of the years of silence she had maintained. It was as if she expected to resume our relationship exactly where it had left off, minus the messy emotional reality of what had transpired between us. I deleted the email without responding and instructed my assistant to block any future attempts at contact from my family members. If they wanted to reconnect, they would need to acknowledge what had happened and demonstrate genuine remorse, not simply pretend the past didn't exist. But the attempts at contact continued. Mom began calling the company, claiming to be a potential client in order to get past the receptionist. Emma created new email addresses when her messages were blocked. Even Dad, who I learned was still alive despite his health problems, had someone call on his behalf. Their persistence forced me to confront feelings I had been avoiding for years. Part of me longed for reconciliation and family connection. Another part remained angry about their rejection and suspicious of their sudden interest in my life. Most confusing was the guilt I felt about my success. Had I really become the selfish person they accused me of being? I decided to hire a private investigator to learn about their current situation. If they were genuinely struggling and needed help, I could find ways to assist them anonymously without reopening old wounds. If they were simply trying to profit from my success, I would know to maintain my boundaries. The investigator's report was sobering. Dad's import business had finally failed completely 3 years after I left home. He had been forced to declare bankruptcy and lost the family home. His health problems had worsened, requiring expensive treatments that stretched their limited resources. Emma had indeed returned to school, but was struggling financially to complete her nursing program. She worked multiple part-time jobs while attending classes, and her marriage was under strain from the financial pressure. Mom worked at a grocery store to help make ends meet, a far cry from the comfortable middle-class life she had once enjoyed. Most concerning was Dad's condition. The stress of business failure and family discord had contributed to serious heart problems. He had been hospitalized several times and needed surgery that was beyond their financial means. Despite everything they had said to me, I couldn't ignore their suffering. Working through my attorney, I established an anonymous fund to cover Dad's medical expenses and ensure he received the best possible care. The family would never know the money came from me, but I would know that I had honored the values Dad had instilled in me before our relationship fell apart. The anonymous assistance felt right, but it didn't resolve my internal conflict about whether to respond to their contact attempts. I began working with a therapist to process my feelings about family, success, and the complex emotions surrounding rejection and forgiveness. Dr. Patricia Hernandez helped me understand that my family's rejection had stemmed from their own fears and insecurities rather than any failing on my part. Success can threaten people who feel stuck in their own lives, she explained. Your achievements highlighted their perceived failures, making them lash out rather than celebrate with you. The therapy sessions also helped me recognize that my drive for success had partly been motivated by a desire to prove my worth to people who had rejected me. While this motivation had served me well professionally, it had also prevented me from processing the emotional trauma of losing my family. You don't need their validation anymore, Dr. Hernandez reminded me during one session. You've proven your worth to yourself and the world. Now you can choose what kind of relationship, if any, you want with them based on your own needs and boundaries. After months of therapy and careful consideration, I decided to respond to one of Emma's messages. I crafted a brief reply acknowledging that I had received her communications and was open to conversation, but only if she was prepared to address what had happened between us honestly. Her response came within hours. She suggested we meet for coffee when I was next in Portland, writing as if we were casual acquaintances arranging a friendly catch-up. There was still no acknowledgement of our painful history or recognition that she had been the one to sever our relationship. I realized that Emma was either unwilling or unable to face the reality of what had transpired between us. She wanted the benefits of my success without the emotional work of genuine reconciliation. This wasn't the foundation for a healthy relationship. Instead of meeting for coffee, I wrote a longer letter explaining my perspective on our family's breakdown and my feelings about their rejection. I described the pain of being told I didn't belong, the isolation of building a successful life without family support, and the confusion of their sudden interest in reconnecting. I ended the letter with an ultimatum. If they wanted a relationship with me, they would need to acknowledge their role in our estrangement, demonstrate genuine remorse, and commit to family therapy to address the underlying issues that had torn us apart. Without these conditions, I was not interested in superficial contact that ignored our painful history. The response to my letter was swift and predictable. Emma accused me of being cruel and unforgiving, suggesting that I was using my success to punish them for past mistakes. Mom called the company repeatedly, alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations about my hard-heartedness. Dad was the only one who responded with any recognition of my perspective. Through a brief email, he acknowledged that they had handled things poorly when I was young and expressed regret about how our family had fallen apart. His words weren't a complete apology, but they showed more emotional awareness than I had received from Emma or Mom. His email ended with a simple request. I would like to see you once before I die, Sarah. Not to ask for anything, just to tell you how proud I am of what you've accomplished. The message was devastating in its simplicity and honesty. After much deliberation, I agreed to see Dad, but only under controlled circumstances. I arranged to fly to Portland and meet him at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant where we could talk privately without interference from Emma or Mom. The man who met me at the restaurant bore little resemblance to the vigorous entrepreneur who had once brought me electronic treasures and encouraged my curiosity. Dad looked fragile and tired, aged far beyond his years by illness and stress. But his eyes still held the warmth I remembered from childhood. You look successful, he said with a slight smile after we had ordered our meals. I saw the Forbes article. Your mother and I read every word. Thank you, I replied, unsure how to navigate this conversation with someone who had once been my biggest supporter and later my biggest disappointment. We talked cautiously at first, sharing updates about our lives while avoiding the emotional landmines that had destroyed our relationship. Dad told me about his health struggles and the business failure that had cost him everything he had worked to build. I shared carefully chosen details about IntelliFlow's success and my life in California. Gradually, the conversation became more honest. Dad admitted that he had been overwhelmed by the family's financial problems and Emma's struggles, leading him to make decisions based on fear rather than wisdom. I should have supported your choices, he said quietly. You were the talented one, the one with the clearest path to success. Instead, I let myself be influenced by your mother and sister's jealousy. His acknowledgement was both validating and heartbreaking. This was the apology I had needed to hear years earlier, when it might have prevented our family's destruction. Why didn't you stand up for me then? I asked, the pain of old wounds evident in my voice. I was scared, he admitted. Scared of losing the business, scared of your mother's anger, scared of Emma's depression. I thought if I could keep the peace at home, somehow everything would work out. But it didn't work out, I pointed out. You lost everything anyway, and you lost me too. Dad nodded, tears forming in his eyes. I know. It was the biggest mistake of my life. We sat in silence for several minutes, both processing the weight of lost years and missed opportunities. Finally, Dad reached across the table and took my hand. I can't undo what happened, he said. But I want you to know that I never stopped being proud of you. Every article I read, every mention of your company, I think, that's my daughter. She did exactly what she set out to do. His words broke through the wall I had built around my heart. Despite everything that had happened, he was still my father and I was still his daughter. I've been helping with your medical expenses, I confessed. The anonymous fund that covered your surgery, that was me. Dad's eyes widened in surprise and gratitude. I wonder how we qualified for that assistance. Sarah, you didn't have to. Yes, I did, I interrupted. Not because I owed you anything, but because it was the right thing to do. You taught me that, even if you forgot it for a while. We spent the rest of the meal rebuilding a connection that had been severed by fear, pride, and misunderstanding. It wasn't a complete reconciliation. Too much had happened for that, but it was a beginning. Before we parted, Dad made one request. Would you consider talking to your mother and sister? They're not handling any of this well, and I think they're finally ready to face what they did. I promised to consider it, though I wasn't ready to commit to anything more than that single conversation with him. Emma and Mom had shown no genuine remorse, only a desire to benefit from my success, without acknowledging their role in our family's breakdown. Over the following months, I maintained occasional contact with Dad through email and phone calls. His health remained fragile, but our renewed relationship seemed to lift his spirits. He kept me updated on his treatments and shared memories from my childhood that I had forgotten. Emma and Mom continued their attempts to contact me, but with increasing desperation as they realized I wasn't going to simply forgive and forget. Their messages shifted from casual friendliness to emotional manipulation, alternating between guilt trips about abandoning family and accusations about my selfishness. The breaking point came when Emma created a fake social media profile and posted about being cut off by my successful sister who forgot where she came from. The post gained traction in Portland's social media circles, painting me as a heartless millionaire who had abandoned her struggling family. The public shaming attempt was the final proof I needed that Emma wasn't interested in genuine reconciliation. She wanted to use social pressure to force me back into a relationship on her terms, without taking responsibility for her actions or showing genuine remorse. I responded through my attorney, threatening legal action if the defamatory posts continued. Emma quickly deleted the fake profile, but the damage to any possibility of rebuilding our relationship was complete. Dad called me the day after the social media incident, his voice heavy with disappointment.
I'm sorry, Sarah.
I thought they were ready to make things right, but I was wrong. It's not your fault, I assured him. You can't control their choices any more than you could control mine. What happens now? He asked. I don't know, I answered honestly. I'm open to maintaining our relationship, but I'm done trying to fix things with Emma and Mom. They've made it clear they're not interested in taking responsibility for their actions. Dad accepted my decision without argument. He had witnessed Emma's manipulation attempt and Mom's continued refusal to acknowledge their mistakes. He understood that forgiveness couldn't be forced and relationships couldn't be rebuilt without genuine remorse from all parties. IntelliFlow continued to thrive, expanding into international markets and developing new products that solidified our position as industry leaders. The company's success provided me with both financial security and personal fulfillment, proving that I had made the right choice in pursuing my dreams despite family opposition. I also began using my wealth and platform to support other young entrepreneurs, particularly women and minorities who face similar barriers to success. The Sarah Chin Foundation provided scholarships, mentorship, and seed funding for promising startups, creating opportunities for others that I wished had existed when I was starting my journey. The foundation work became deeply meaningful to me, offering a way to honor the values my parents had originally instilled while building something positive from the pain of family rejection. Each scholarship recipient and successful startup reminded me that my achievements had purpose beyond personal success. 3 years after my conversation with Dad, I received news that Mom had been diagnosed with cancer. Despite our estrangement, I couldn't ignore her medical situation. I discreetly arranged for her treatment to be covered by the same anonymous fund that had helped Dad, ensuring she received the best possible care. Dad called to tell me about Mom's positive response to treatment, his voice filled with gratitude. I don't know how we keep qualifying for these medical assistance programs, he said, but I suspect you might know something about it. I'm just glad she's getting the help she needs, I replied, neither confirming nor denying his suspicions. She knows it's you, he said quietly. Emma might be too proud to admit it, but your mother understands. She cries sometimes, talking about how she failed you and how you're still taking care of us anyway. That doesn't mean she's ready to face what happened between us, I pointed out. No, Dad agreed. But maybe it's a start. Mom's illness seemed to create a shift in the family dynamic. According to Dad, Emma had taken a leave from nursing school to help care for Mom, finally putting family needs ahead of her own desires. Mom had begun talking about regrets and missed opportunities, expressing remorse for choices she couldn't undo. But I had learned not to hope for dramatic changes or sudden revelations. Real change happened gradually through consistent actions and genuine accountability. Until Emma and Mom demonstrated sustained commitment to rebuilding trust, I would maintain my boundaries while continuing to help them anonymously. On my 28th birthday, I received an unexpected package at my office. Inside was a photo album filled with pictures from my childhood and teenage years, birthday parties, school events, family vacations, and quiet moments at home. Each page was carefully arranged with handwritten captions in Mom's familiar script. The final page contained a letter from Mom, written in both English and Chinese characters I remembered from my childhood. The letter acknowledged the pain she had caused by rejecting me and failing to support my dreams. She took responsibility for allowing jealousy and fear to override her maternal instincts. I don't expect forgiveness, the letter concluded. I just wanted you to know that I never stopped loving you, even when I was too afraid and foolish to show it properly. You became everything I always knew you could be, and I am so proud to be your mother, even if I don't deserve that honor. The photo album and letter moved me to tears, representing the first genuine apology and acknowledgement I had received from Mom. It wasn't enough to erase years of pain and estrangement, but it was a meaningful step toward healing. I called Dad that evening to thank him for helping Mom put together the album. She did it all herself, he assured me. I just helped her find some of the older photos. She's been working on it for months, trying to find the right words. What about Emma? I asked. She's struggling, Dad admitted. She knows she needs to make things right with you, but her pride makes it difficult. Taking care of your mother has been good for her. It's helping her understand what really matters in life. I didn't respond immediately to Mom's letter, needing time to process my emotions and decide how I wanted to move forward. The photo album sat on my coffee table for weeks, a tangible reminder of the family love that had existed before fear and jealousy destroyed it. Eventually, I wrote a brief response thanking Mom for the album and acknowledging her apology. I didn't offer immediate forgiveness or suggest reunion, but I left the door open for continued communication if she was genuinely committed to rebuilding trust. Her reply came quickly, expressing gratitude for my response and sharing more details about her regrets and hopes for our relationship. We began exchanging occasional emails, carefully navigating the complex emotions surrounding our estrangement while slowly rebuilding connection. Emma remained silent, apparently unable or unwilling to take the difficult step of acknowledging her role in our family's breakdown. Dad reported that she was aware of Mom's correspondence with me and struggled with her own pride and shame about the situation. She wants to reach out, he explained during one of our phone calls, but she's terrified that you'll reject her the way she rejected you. That's not unreasonable, I replied. I might very well reject her if she approaches this the wrong way. She hurt me deeply, and I won't pretend otherwise just to make her feel better. What would be the right way? Dad asked. I considered the question carefully. Genuine accountability for her actions. Real remorse, not just regret about the consequences. A commitment to doing the hard work of rebuilding trust instead of expecting instant forgiveness. That's a lot to ask, he said. It's exactly what any healthy relationship requires, I responded. The fact that we're family doesn't lower the standards. If anything, it should raise them. As IntelliFlow approached its 5th anniversary, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me from family rejection to entrepreneurial success. The company was now valued at over $500 million, with offices in 3 countries and hundreds of employees whose livelihoods depended on our continued growth. But the most meaningful measure of success wasn't financial. It was the confidence I had gained in my own worth and the life I had built on my own terms. I had learned that belonging wasn't something others could grant or take away. It was something I created for myself through my choices and relationships. The family that had once told me I didn't belong had been replaced by colleagues who valued my contributions, friends who appreciated my personality, and a romantic relationship with someone who supported my ambitions. I had built a life where I was wanted, respected, and loved for who I truly was. My relationship with Jonathan, a fellow entrepreneur I had met at a tech conference,